For HOME, those are funds that are made for helping developers reducing the cost of developing affordable housing. Because of Congress this year, they have ended HOME program. Because of that, some states have some money left over and they have entered into their last round of funding, which means is by the end of this year, you need to go ahead and have your applications in. And so if you are an emerging developer, if you are a developer, if you are looking to try to make your own affordable housing project or even a city or county, what happens is if those monies are not utilized, they go back to the federal government. So we want to be able to utilize what money is left. And because of the funding availabilities went out on September 30th, which is really important to understand, we only have like a 3-month window in order to obtain the last amount of HOME funds. And that's really important for every affordable housing developer. If you have a pending project or if you're thinking about a project, go ahead and try to get it and do the applications for it.
How
Right.
about pro housing? Tell me a little bit more about what this grant is, who is it by, and what's it for?
I really love pro housing. So it is a competitive. You can use pro housing funds and you can utilize in 2 ways. One for a program to teach youth, to teach people about home ownership and they're helping them obtain home ownership. But then you can also utilize it for infrastructure and for purchasing and helping affordable housing be built faster. Now, the thing about pro housing is you need to be able to be in a pro housing area or a pro housing city. So not all cities in California are eligible for the pro housing grant, but if a city is not eligible and you have a really great and strong application, you can go to the city and help them to become eligible to receive the funds for pro housing so that way you can receive it for your project. There's a lot of things that you could be doing until you actually receive the approval. Sometimes people wait is because it's competitive. They think, oh yeah, I'm going to get it. And the thing is they may not get it or they may get a reduced amount. So because they are eligible to say, hey, we approve you, but we only approve you for like a quarter or a tenth of what you are asking for, to still have a funding gap. So the best thing to do is while you're waiting, go ahead and try to find more funding and apply for more funding. Continue looking, to continue going to private partnerships, philanthropies, other fundings, and then obviously keep positive so that way you get it.
All right, welcome to an episode of Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. Guys, today we got breaking news. We got funding that is available right now that you got to hop on this opportunity because if you wait till the last minute, chances are it might not be there anymore. But coming back for a three-peat, I got Miss Anber Little on the podcast today. Amber, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am fantastic. I am pumped about this. When you told me like, hey, Kent, there's all this money that's coming available. We got to go out there and we got to help more people. I was like, why are you telling me? Come on the podcast. And this is the best way that, hey, we don't gatekeep here. We share all information out there with everybody so that we can create as much affordable housing for all the people that could really use it. So Amber, let's get right into it. Give me a 1-minute background of who you are, just for people that don't know you.
Okay.
And now I want to get into all the grants that are available right now.
Okay. I am Anber. I own Sustainable. We are a full service or full spectrum housing consulting agency. So we help from the funding through the development process and into stabilization for your affordable housing project. Not only are we helping out each and every one of our developers, but we also help nonprofits who want to start getting into affordable housing as well and have their programs. So now we also develop the programs for them too. And so that's a little bit about what I do and what my company Sustainable does in helping ensure that we gather more affordable housing and able to put more people into housing, keeping them sustainable.
And you don't just help developers and nonprofits, you help cities and counties too, right? Just from the meeting
Yes,
that you just had this
yes.
week.
So cities and counties, they're more than welcome to come and ask us for help. We have creative ways in order to add housing into a city or to a town, but also there's funding available too that some areas are not even utilizing. And so coming to us, we're able to help those particular municipalities be able to gather the monies that they need to grow not only their city or their suburb, but also to grow in having better housing choices and not having people leave their communities, but to come to their communities.
And you just told me an example, right? I mean, you don't have to use like the city or the county's name, but Give us an example of what you might see like a city or a county doing, but then they completely miss like this big opportunity that might be available for them.
Right. So, over the summer, I did a really great trip to visit multiple cities, multiple counties, and states. And what I noticed is a lot of the housing authorities or cities are not utilizing all the funds that are available to them. So, some of them are not obtaining the CBDG or the home, or even the housing authority is not utilizing housing choice vouchers. So because of that, a lot of the cities, a lot of the housing authorities, they're missing out on funds that one can fund the city. That's the first and main thing. Fund jobs for the city, but also they're missing out on how to grow their city and be able to have more affordable housing for their city so that way their constituents stay in the city as well.
That is so good. And when you talk about like, hey, there are funds that people are not thinking about. Are these like federal funds? Like, what did you mean by funds? Like, where are these
So
sources of funds coming from?
So some of the funds are federal, so through the HUD, so Housing and Urban Development. Some of those funds are also through the state. So some of the states have certain funds that are available too. For instance, in California, there is a millionaire tax fund, right, that helps build more affordable housing. So when all the military millionaires got all the money from the taxes, it wind up creating over $300 million, I believe, to go straight towards affordable housing and developing it. So those are great things that certain cities are not utilizing that could utilize a program such as that. Or they could utilize the housing choice vouchers or the HUD VASH vouchers. There's veterans everywhere, and certain cities are not utilizing and maintaining veteran vouchers for their cities.
Ooh, all right. This is so good. You are literally like a pot of gold right now, Amber. Just like putting yourself out there. Like, I'm the pot of gold. Come find me. Let me help you find a pot of gold for you, for you, for you, for you, for you.
Yeah,
This is so I'm so excited for this podcast today.
right.
So I know there's bunch of other grants that are
Right,
available.
yes.
Maybe we could talk about home funds, the pro housing, the millionaire funds, some CDBG stuff. Which
Yeah.
one do you want to hit on first?
Actually, let's hit on home. I think that's
All
the
right.
most important one right now. So for home, and that's like a capital HOME, those are funds that are made for helping developers reducing the cost of developing affordable housing. Here's the thing. Because of Congress this year, they have ended home program. Because of that, some states have some money left over and they have entered into their last round of funding, which means is by the end of this year, you need to go ahead and have your applications in. And so whatever money that has not been allocated that the states have for home funds, if you are an emerging developer, if you are a developer, if you are looking to try to make your own affordable housing project or even a city, a county, what happens is if those monies are not utilized, they go back to the federal government. So we want to be able to utilize what money is left. And so it's very important right now. A couple of states that have some money left over, California, Alabama, Nevada. So those are some of the states. I believe also New Hampshire had some monies left over. And because of the funding availabilities went out on September 30th, which is really important to understand, we only have like a 3-month window in order to obtain the last amount of home funds. And that's really important for every affordable housing developer. If you have a pending project or if you're thinking about a project, go ahead and try to get it and do the applications for it.
Mm. So when you say, hey, these funds are used for helping developers like create more affordable housing, what can these funds be used for? Are they gap financing or are they sort of like grants that can be used towards like getting a project entitled as an example?
Right.
Tell us a little bit more about what can these funds be used for.
So some of the funds, one, it also depends on the state and what they have stipulated. That's one of the main things. However, the program in a whole, it can be utilized for acquisition costs. It can be utilized for infrastructure as well. So if you needed to do certain things in your project, it can also be utilized for operations. So meaning is when we are starting our operations, trying to get compliance set up, trying to get all those things together, those are what the fundings can be used for. So think of it like that. Some of it also can be used for entitlements, but again, it depends on the state. But mostly it's going to be about acquisition, about infrastructure, and operations.
All right. Well, obviously, the cheat code is to come to you for all the information. But for someone that wants to just do some quick research, like, are they looking at just like a home funds like NOFA to figure out what's available and what it can be used for? Is that the best path that they can take themselves?
Yeah, so either you could do two ways, okay? You can either go to your state's community and development office or your state's treasury office. Usually one of those agencies will have the funding. Another place you can go to is the grants.gov, and you can look up the HOME program and make sure HOME is in all caps. And then from there, you'll be able to see particular qualifications. And for profits, nonprofits, including tribal affiliations, veterans, and cities and municipalities, they can all apply for it.
This is so good. All right. So now, not only have you told them what it is, what can it be used for, where to look up information, like for people that are not listening to this right now, if you missed that, you should definitely go back and rewind and
Right.
listen to that part like all over again because
Right.
this is so important. And I'm assuming they have the deadlines out there on listed on those sources of information. But like,
Right.
how should people be working on that right now, Amber? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, so if you're going to be looking at home, you need to go ahead and start now. So meaning is either look at the application, look at everything. It is competitive. And so what you need to do is look and see what do I have and what I don't have and what can I create or make from my application. And since those applications are going to be due within the next 3 months, some of them are going to be a little bit sooner than others. It's more important to start now than to start 2 weeks at the end of the deadline, basically, and just in case if you need to have certain types of things going on, like a public hearing, or if you need to be able to have letters of support from the mayor or from city council, those things take time and you have to build relationships. And so that is why it's really important to go ahead and start now and start working on it now. Our office is more than happy to always help individuals obtain those qualifications for the home and even help submit the application too. But if you are doing it on your own, you're more than welcome to, but you need to go ahead and start now and gathering all the documentation, everything you need in order to apply.
See, I love how you went through and shared with people like, hey, how do you actually apply this, right? Because let's make it super real for people that don't understand all this terminology,
Right.
right? So if you can apply some of these home funds for acquisition, let's say you are a city or your county, you own a piece of land.
Uh-huh.
But now all of a sudden you figured if I buy that one little single family lot next to my property,
Uh-huh.
well, now all of a sudden, I probably can increase my density by like another 20, 30, 50 units because of the extra space that I have. So that is huge for a city if you can use that towards acquisition costs.
Right.
Or
Exactly.
similarly, if you can use it for entitlements, let's say you have a parking lot. You can go
Uh-huh.
apply for these funds. That funds your civil, your architects, your environmental studies, all this due diligence that you need to do to figure out what is the density that you can put on this property and
Uh-huh.
help create and pave that path towards building all those units. Like these funds are available right now only for 3 more months. So that's why I
Right.
made sure Amber came on today and share all this information with all of you.
But you know what? You made something really great. You said a really great point. A lot of the states have actual monies and grants for the due diligence, for the soft costs. So it's called a pre-development grant, and a lot of the states actually already have it. And you're able to go ahead and apply it. Some of them have deadlines, or some of them are rolling. However, if you are looking at it and you don't have necessarily all the funds right now to develop or to obtain services like of a consultants like myself, what you can do is go ahead and apply for that pre-development grant from your state's housing and development office, and then you'll have the monies, tangible monies, in order to help you make your dreams come true for your affordable housing project.
I love that you said help your dreams come true. Well, these pre-development grants, are these in California? Like what? So I'm just using California as an example just because
Okay,
I live here.
right.
How did it get these pre-development grants in California?
So California, they come from the housing and community development site. So
Okay.
if you go in there and you look
HCD.
up, yeah, HCD, then you can go
Ooh.
there. What's also really great is on the Northwest, they have it too. So not Northwest, I apologize, Northeast. So in like Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire, they have it. So RI Housing has the pre-development grant. So does Mass Housing and New Hampshire as well.
Ooh, so this pot of gold, we're just like serving it up to everybody on like a freaking silver platter here. All right. We're talking about home funds. So
Yeah.
people know about it. They got to get on top of it. Your
Yes.
application's got to be in by end of the year.
Right.
When do they typically expect to get these funds? Like how long does the whole review process take in your
Mhm.
opinion, based on your experience, and when will they actually receive the funds?
So a lot of times it takes about 3 to 6 months. So even if you're applying in December, for instance, you're going to be looking at about 3 to 6 months. And that includes them doing the competitive look at it. So that means them looking at all the applications, seeing who has the most points. And the points are based upon how well does your project implement everything that they're looking for as well. And then your first draw, which is where you get the financing for it, is generally within about 6 to 9 months. Mhm,
Okay. And obviously, when you start like drawing on it, you have
mhm.
to figure out there's compliance or there's steps for you to justify what you're spending your grant money
Right.
on. I think that's a really big step that not a lot of people know about. Can
Mhm.
you elaborate just a little bit on like the complexity of the compliance that's required when you start drawing on it, and what do you have to keep records of? I guess my
Right.
best question.
So I always tell everybody, please make sure to get yourself a CPA, a certified public accountant, and someone who is non-biased, meaning is they don't know who you are or they don't know anything about your company. And the reason why is the more non-biased you can get an individual, it's easier for them to stay focused. And that's the main thing for the compliance is where did the money go? So if you get a really good CPA, a really good bookkeeper, or if you're doing it in-house, you need to have someone to actually make sure that where you say the money is going actually goes there. And that if you understand this, that if monies go to something that was not allocated for that particular grant, you may be subject to return that monies back when it's time for reporting. So make sure that if you say you're going to use the money for instance, building 20 units, then you need to use the money for building the 20 units. And if it's the project is supposed to be in one state or one city, but you decide to use the money for another city, you're going to have a whole bunch of problems. So just ensure that whatever your application says, that you're actually holding accountable to what you told the grant makers or the individuals who you're getting the money from. And so that's the main thing is to make sure of that. Compliance can also deal with income requirements as well, meaning is you may be
Mm.
required to show for every one of your residents every year, maybe just a quick list or maybe actually like the packets, the income requirements, making sure that they have their bank statements, that you have proof of their income, that they're actually are living in the unit based upon their AMI as well. And if anybody who's in a unit who is over AMI, that's a whole nother issue that we could talk about later. But the main thing is if you are utilizing it based upon AMI, you may be required to show proof of your residence income requirements.
Wow. Lots of steps right there. Please don't mess this one up because you are going to be losing your sleep over this stuff if you don't stay on top of it. I think just so many people underestimate, like, oh, I got this grant. And then you forget about all the costs. That's why when you talked about auto compliance,
Right.
verification of income,
Yes.
people like they forget how much cost it takes, just administrative overhead to verify the income because you could be in serious trouble. You could be going against what you put into your grant application
Mhm. Exactly.
because you're not staying on top of it. And that's
Right.
why for smaller projects, when you can't afford a full-time property manager on
Mhm.
site for some reason, like not
Right.
just managing the property, but handling all the compliance items.
Exactly. Yes. So if you're gonna have a smaller property, it's really great to just take the time to find someone to just focus on your compliance. If you have a larger property and you're deciding to go with a property management company, make sure your property management company is vetted, meaning is they have a certified occupancy specialist or a certified tax specialist on site. or making sure that they have someone who does the compliance as well. So those are things that you need to make sure that when you get a property management company that they have all the credentials in order to actually do the compliance.
Okay, one
Yeah.
more question,
Okay.
and I know I didn't prepare you for these questions, but
It's okay.
I'm I'm trying to figure out when you apply for a grant, you're in this like weird low after you apply, and a
Yes.
lot of cities might be asking, well, all right, let's say I'm applying for this grant to acquire this property, or let's say
Mhm.
I'm applying for this grant for my soft costs. When they apply, do you suggest they just sit and wait until they hear the results of the grants? Like, what do you typically see people do? What should they do?
So some actually do sit and wait, and however, I'm not an advocate for that. I believe in let's stacking up your capital and let's stacking as much funding as possible. Sometimes though, while you're waiting, it's not guaranteed until you receive your approval and until you receive that first draw into the account, it's not guaranteed yet. So what that means is you have to be able to keep working on finding other new opportunities, funding opportunities, working with banks, letting them know that you're leveraging grants as well. Start if you're nonprofits, go ahead and start doing capital raising, but not also that, but fundraising as well. Galas are perfect ways of doing that. Sponsorships are perfect ways of doing that as well. So there's a lot of things that you could be doing until you actually receive the approval. Don't just wait because what happens is sometimes people wait is because it's competitive. They think, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna get it." And the thing is, they may not get it or they may get a reduced amount. So because they are eligible to say, "Hey, we approve you, but we only approve you for like a quarter or a tenth of what you are asking for." So you have to still have a funding gap. So the best thing to do is while you're waiting, go ahead and try to find more funding. Go ahead and apply for more funding. And then obviously keep positive so that way that you get it. But the main thing is to do that, is to continue looking, to continue going to private partnerships, philanthropies, other fundings as well.
Okay, well, let me kind of just with my lack of experience, I like to come up with these scenarios, and
Okay.
I'm thinking about, yeah, don't sit idly by because
Yeah.
hey, maybe you get debt, maybe like let's say you're a city or a county, let's say you
Mhm.
issue more municipal debt
Right.
to buy the property next to it. Well, if you get this grant later down the road, then I'm sure you can use the grant money to just reduce that debt down there, right? So you're not necessarily at a position where you're like so afraid, like, oh, I borrowed this money, but you have the grant money coming in. You can always reduce the debt afterwards. Do you agree with that approach? Like, what are your thoughts there?
Well, grant monies have to go exactly to where you say. So as long as the individual or the municipality says that the money is going to go towards funding, like just say for instance, it's land, right? To
Hmm.
acquire land, then they need to make sure that it's for acquiring land. If they say it's for a particular parcel, then they have to make sure that they purchase that parcel. But if in the event that they just say we want to acquire land in general and they just say for 500 units, then they have a little bit more leeway about how much land they can purchase and if the land is actually feasible to hold 500 units. And that's just an example.
Mm.
So it's really not where it's a free for all. It's really direct about how you do and how you utilize the money.
Yeah, so language is super important, right? In your grant application, where you don't want to say, I'm going to get this parcel, and then you pigeonhole yourself into that little piece of narrow land
Right.
when you could have said adjacent land or land within half a mile radius. So it's
Exactly.
balancing that specificity so that
Yes.
you get credibility from the person that's granting the grant, so to speak, but
Yes.
not being so specific that you pigeonhole yourself like and you lose the flexibility.
Exactly. Sometimes people do it where they have it for a particular building. So, for instance, we're working in the Northeast and we're looking at particular buildings that we are going to revitalize. Those particular buildings, yes, we are considering, like, I guess you could say pigeonholing, or we're saying we're getting those. But in there, I made sure to put in a clause saying that this particular building or something similar because there are other projects and other buildings that are very similar available for purchase as well.
Well, Amber just saved you all millions of dollars by just giving you that one little extra couple of words. So make sure you follow Amber on LinkedIn. You
Yeah.
message her if you have any questions. You give this podcast a 5-star review because this is how we keep getting these little nuggets of wisdom, these possible goals coming out to all of you to create more housing, first and
Yes,
foremost. So,
exactly.
all right, we talked about home plans. We talked
Right.
about some philosophical questions. How
Right.
about pro housing?
Oh,
There's like a new NOFA that just came out. So tell me a little bit more about what this grant is, who is it by, and what's it for?
okay. So I really love pro housing, and I love it for two reasons. Okay. First reason is you can use pro housing funds for programs, meaning is you can use it for, just say, for instance, you have a discipleship house, or you have a house that's made for fostered youth, adult transition foster youth. What happens is you can utilize the pro housing funds to create a program to teach about how to be your own home owner, to teach about money skills, how to buy your first house, how to buy an investment property like a triplex. And that's really great. Those home funds really help out creating future stable homeowners. And it also helps out with other organizations and nonprofits who are teaching about home ownership, affordable home ownership as well. And so those pro housing funds can be utilized for a program. But the other part of it, the pro housing funds, it can be utilized to help cities create less red tape for affordable housing. Meaning is if your project, and you can do your project in a way where there's not a lot of red tape, meaning you don't have to do a whole bunch of public hearings because you decided to put your project in the right location. Those are things that pro housing funds can be utilized as well for building affordable housing. And as long as you are creating innovative ways of reducing the red tape and reducing the way that the infrastructure is like being overloaded onto a particular city or municipality, then you can utilize those funds as well. So it is a competitive, and you can utilize in two ways. One, for a program to teach youth, to teach people about home ownership and then helping them obtain home ownership. But then you can also utilize it for infrastructure and for purchasing and helping affordable housing be built faster. Now, the thing about the pro housing, sorry for rambling, but I really love this. But the thing about pro housing is you need to be able to be in a pro housing area or a pro housing city. So, not all cities in California are eligible for the pro housing grant, but if a city is not eligible and you have a really great and strong application, you can go to the city and help them to become eligible to receive the funds for pro housing so that way you can receive it for your project.
Interesting. So it's almost as you are a developer. Not only are you going above and beyond what you're
Right.
doing, but you're also helping the city become eligible. How do you become eligible for a pro housing designation? Is that the
S-
right term for
Yeah,
it?
designation could be great. So there's a couple of things that each city has to do, and it really depends about the size of the city and the way that they're structured as well. So some of the things could be is how are they willing to adapt to affordable housing? How are they willing to speed up the affordable housing project? How are they able to ensure that affordable housing is available into their city and ensuring that, they stay with the fair housing compliance and such? A lot of it deals with permitting office, and a lot of it deals with how well and how fast they're willing to make the process go smoother for developers. So if your project, which just say for instance, and this is a hypothetical project I'm thinking of, just say for instance, your project is to create permanent supportive housing. And then in that supportive housing, you are deciding to utilize a program portion as well for the pro housing to teach people, hey, this is supportive housing, but at the end of it all, you can, in the next 2 to 3 years, decide you want to purchase your own home. We have a program within our housing development to create that. Well, then because you create this great, infrastructure of how to not only reduce like the issues with affordable housing, but also obtain more homeowners as well, you could take that to the city, and then the city can help you and you guys can do like a joint venture with the city to create a pro housing agreement.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Whoa.
Right.
I like these hypotheticals.
So yeah,
So,
so what's really great about that is you're able to create something really great and innovative, give it to a city that doesn't have the pro housing, and then you guys can be able to not only receive funds, it helps out the city, it helps out you, it helps out the community, which is really great. If a city already has the pro housing designation, then it's just easy to just take your program, make sure you dot all your I's, cross all your T's, and submit it in for you to be able to receive the funds.
yeah, I love this. So let me try to make things even more real by asking a couple more questions because I'm really curious, right? When you talk about how do you reduce the red tape? How do you speed up approvals?
Mhm.
I'm thinking about a couple of ways. Like, okay, well, what if I allocate a certain amount of pro housing grants towards creating a process that allows 100% affordable projects to go through faster, or 50% affordable projects to go through, whatever that number might be.
Mhm.
Maybe I invest in more headcount in my permitting department so that the approvals go through faster. Like, would those scenarios be considered as eligible for something like this?
Yes, and then also something that our office does with developers to create housing faster is to do public-private ventures where we're actually doing a lot of things in the private market, meaning private funds, either through your grant, like through a bank, and then we're utilizing public funds to fund the units. And those create affordable housing the quickest. And that's one of the ways that our office actually specializes in doing the public private ventures. And those particular ventures can be able to develop and utilize the pro housing funds as well.
Okay. Help me understand that public-private venture more. Using private funds through banks. Are you talking about grants? Are you talking about debt financing through the banks? What did you mean by that public-private venture? Give
So
people an example.
private money could be where, just say, for instance, I'm going to give an example of a project that we're doing actually. So, for this one particular project that we're doing, we wind up able to get private funds. And some of those private funds came from banks that had private capital grants up to $1 million because we were able to apply for several of those banks and several of these foundations that have capital grants. We were able to obtain the monies to pay for a particular building to be rehabilitated, all with private funds. So that's the first thing. Because it's private funds, we don't have to do a lot of this public funding things that are required for certain cities and counties as well. It allows us to reduce the red tape and permitting because we're creating affordable housing, and even though we are not using like bonds or tax credit, we are going to be utilizing the housing authority. And the housing authority will be funding the units and ensuring that every person who is on the housing authority list, the wait lists are so long nationwide. But they're so long that we're creating partnerships with the housing authority to say, hey, you have 4,000 people, we're creating 100, 200 new units right here, and we already have them available to reduce the number in your housing authority list. So we're creating partnerships, and that's what's us reducing the permitting issues, the red tape with city council and commissioners is because we use all private funds to fund the project.
Ah, so I see where innovation comes from. You almost
Mhm.
look at a completely different angle. Like, how do you create more housing without as much red tape? That's because you went through the private funds. So you don't have to go through the city hearings that you had to go through in order for
Right,
them to approve allocation of city funds towards it. I'm just saying it back to you so I can
right.
understand your thoughts.
Mhm,
And now you have the housing authority. Either they are providing vouchers to subsidize the rents on a property that helps you get your monthly income to service the underlying debt, or you
mhm,
might even master lease a certain number of units to that housing authority, right? So from a perspective of a developer, you're thinking, hey, no matter what, I have X amount of rent coming in every single month that's guaranteed by the housing
mhm.
authority. And I can sleep better
Exactly.
at night that way, right? So
Right.
did I understand that correctly?
Yes, and so then when you now, because of that public-private, and now that you created that, now go ahead and obtain the pro-housing funds now, because even though those are public funds, but those pro-housing funds can now be utilized for, let's just say, rehabilitation for your affordable housing because you've found a way to reduce the red tape. Or you can use the pro housing funds to create a program for your residents to be able to learn about affordable home ownership and be able to, even though that particular affordable housing project could be a stepping stone for them to be able to get into housing.
Oh, so in that scenario, really the pro housing grant is being applied for by the city or even the housing authority, right? Am I understanding the role correctly, or is it still developer that's
So
applying
it could
for?
still be a developer. So, but they need to
Mm.
be able to work with the city. So you take your project proposal and you take it to the city, and they basically they sign off on it for you to be able to receive the funds. That's like that's the quick way of saying it. There's a lot more to it than that. But and it's more complicated, but you want to have a really good strong proposal working with the city and ensuring that housing is being created for the city as well. Mhm.
Well, I think that is a beautiful example that you gave there that a lot of people
Right.
now can understand. Wow, there seems to be more flexibility than what people can ascertain from just by reading like a 24-page PDF on it.
Right.
So,
And I think what happens is a lot of people, other developers, other consultants, or other cities, they know what works for them. And so they keep on with the way that it works, not understanding that a lot of these grants and a lot of the funding agencies are looking for creative ways of how you're using the funds, looking for emerging developers, new people, new skin in the game, and they're looking for ways to fund people who are being creative with the money instead of always utilizing the money and those residents are not being able to live sustainably in their units as well. So if you can, like our agency for sustainable, that's our whole goal is to create something creative and creating a creative project to be able to work with the city. And usually it always goes well.
yeah, and I love that you really highlighted the word creative because I think the time or the era where you rely on these one and done types of grants,
Mhm.
it truly is not self-sustainable. It's you can't rely on that. If that was enough to solve the affordable housing problem, honestly, this podcast might not have even existed, to be quite honest with you, Amber. And had
Yeah.
that been enough, we would not be having this conversation on this
Yeah.
podcast right now. All right.
Right.
So we just talked about pro housing. Let's talk about the tactical details really quick so we can kind of hit them.
Okay.
We just talked about what's eligible. When do they need to submit their
Okay.
application by for pro housing grants?
Oh,
And
okay.
when might they expect to get the funding for their
Funding.
projects?
Okay, so for the pro housing, there is a deadline in March of 2026 if you're in California. If you are in other states that have pro housing, a lot of them are ranging between the January to March as well to turn in your applications. From there, they're going to go through the review process, and some of them are self-grading. So meaning is you basically say how much you've done on ensuring that you meet the criteria for the grant. What's going to happen next after that is about 3 to 6 months, they're going to be reviewing it over. Some of them do require hearings, not necessarily all of them. And some of them are going to require additional information as well. Some of them will also have a stipulation where you cannot start construction until 2 weeks after you applied for the grant. So keep that in mind. So if you're in mid construction, you may not be eligible for all the monies or uses that you're able to utilize it for. So make sure that make sure your timing is correct as well. And then your draws will come about 3 months after that.
And I want to be super clear. Earlier, we talked about how home funds could be used for acquisitions. I know
Right.
pro housing is very flexible, but I'm assuming you can use that for acquisitions for soft costs as well.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
So the thing about it is though, you when you do your application, you have to be very detailed about where the money is going. A lot of times they don't pay for reimbursement, but if there is an availability for reimbursement of costs that you've already exceeded, like the just say you're an architect, then if they allow for reimbursement, then you need to make sure that this goes back to compliance, that those monies are going for reimbursement in regards to the architect.
Love it. All right.
Yeah.
So you still have to balance the level of specificity versus
Mhm.
what you're trying to get awarded for with the level of creativity that you're applying towards the
Mhm.
city. Okay.
Right.
Great. I'm glad we can kind of put a little bow on the pro housing grant. Make sure you reach out to Amber if you have any questions. But
Right.
let's talk about a millionaire fund. You briefly
Oh,
just
yeah.
hit on this in the beginning. You said the millionaire fund has like $300 million that just the state of California has generated. Tell us a
Right.
little bit more about the Millionaire Fund. Like, what can that be used for, and what is it?
The Millionaire tax, so houses that were over a certain amount of equity or a certain price was able to receive taxes that go straight into for affordable housing, for creating and developing and even rehabilitating for affordable housing. And so what makes it really interesting for this particular tax, and I believe like this is still new, so just bear with me. But the main thing is to build new affordable housing and to build it for a particular AMI. So even though they're saying affordable housing, the most of well, from what we realized and what we're working on, they really are looking for housing being built for the 60% AMI. So if you're around that area, that is actually a very good AMI or area median income to build the housing for because 17,000 people every week go into homelessness from that particular AMI. So we want to make sure that we are keeping our middle class in a house. That's the main thing. So, with the millionaire tax, those funds are now allocated for new projects, and those projects can also be utilized for acquisition, for rehabilitation, and for construction as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, so very flexible in terms of
Right.
uses.
Mhm.
How do you qualify then? Like, is it 100% of the units have to be for 60% AMI?
No, not 100%, but that is their goal. Their goal is to try to get as many units in that particular range. You can go lower, you can go higher. The only thing they ask for is not to go over 120%. And that's generally what most housing is, right? So that's kind of flexible and you have a really great flexibility. The main thing is they want to help the middle class. And so with applying for it, there are a couple of steps that you do have to take. Some of them do require you to have letters of support from your local community, meaning is it could be your city council, county commissioner, it can even be people from the planning department who are willing to say, yes, this area needs housing. It can be activists, whatever it needs to be. But you do need to have some letters of support and you do need to be able to show that there is a need for your particular area. So, certain areas that have high homeless rates right now or high rates of evictions are some of the places that you really want to be able to add affordable housing into.
Okay, so we talked about the unit mix, and I think this is such a great point to just stay on a little bit because I
Right,
like that it doesn't require 100% 60% AMI
right.
units. Then just the environment that you're creating, it's you want to have a mix. You want to have people of different professions, different backgrounds, so that hey,
Mhm,
maybe you have some folks in the lower income threshold, but they see other people in higher income thresholds in the same
mhm,
community going
mhm,
out there, becoming better versions of themselves.
mhm.
I think that's just a very important for you to consider. Like that's the life, that's the livelihoods of the people that are living
Right.
there. So you got to be really particular about who you're putting in there, whether you're creating positive influences for the kids that are growing up.
Exactly, exactly. And I think like by agency, we do the feasibility study to really show you where the best AMI or the best type of population to focus on for the housing in that particular area that you're maybe looking at to utilize those funds. But at the end of it, you do want a good mix, but at the same time though, how your mix is structured is really important too because you want your community to be together and not be separated between high class and low class. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's also you gotta think about it, like, right now, I hear about a ton of people putting in affordable housing without
Mhm.
any parking. I don't
Yes.
love that thesis, and
No.
it's if well, let's say you're in California, like, sometimes you just
Right.
wanna have access to a car to go somewhere, and in California, it's a very much a driving state, and
It is.
if you don't have parking in your area, just think about your pro forma. Your
Right.
vacancy expenses are probably one of the highest expense buckets in your entire pro forma. If
Exactly.
people are leaving your building to go to the building across the street that's brand new, but they have parking, your turnover. We talked about this early in this podcast. When people don't prepare for
Right.
the assumptions down the road about what it takes to operate it, what it takes to maintain it,
Right.
you are in trouble. Like
Yes.
you got to pay that debt service every single month. If not, it goes into foreclosure, it goes into default, it goes into receivership. You
There's
don't
a
want to
whole
be in that
bunch of things that
position.
can happen, yeah. So, what you wanna do is definitely get a feasibility study to figure out who is living in that area that you're looking for. Even look at the eviction rates too, so if there are people who are having evictions, but they're having evictions at a particular AMI, you really probably wanna start gearing towards housing for those people, so then that way, not only are they able to go into some type of new housing, but they're able to sustain in housing as well.
And Amber, this is a great sort of question or just a philosophy, right? For you to get these grants, right? It's almost
Mhm.
as if you had to go after larger projects because they want to see a bigger magnitude of impact. Would you say that's pretty fair? Because sometimes we have people listening to this that are just single family investors,
Right.
but they know some connections or they might know some landowners.
Mhm.
But it's almost as if you had to go after bigger projects. Would you agree that's a general mantra of what people should be thinking about?
I think a lot of people think bigger projects is where the money is at, but I think
Mm.
some people are not able to live in high density projects, meaning is in a building with 100 or 200 other people. Sometimes a building with 50 units or 40 units, and say, for instance, you did it as an infill, right? And those infill grant monies are out of and available as well. You create a more the community on your property is probably is more supportive than one that is so big. How about that? And so I think that when you start thinking about affordable housing, think about the community that you're also creating as well. And then when you think about the community that you're creating, you can utilize that thought to for your grant application, for your funding application. Because a lot of the times what they're looking for, especially people who are funding these projects, they're looking for community. They're looking about how are you helping the lives of these people? How are you ensuring that their quality of life is great? I mean, a quality of life for someone who has a car, but has to walk or park their car on the side of the street a mile away, that's not great quality of life at all, right? They may lose weight, but that's not great quality of life. And so those are things that they're looking for too. Like, how are you ensuring the quality of life of these people are being able to stay in housing? That's the main thing. And then for Los Angeles County, they have something called Stay Housed LA because they want to keep people stayed in their housing. They want them to be sustainable in their housing. And so I would say big projects are great, but think about your community. If you're going to do a big project, maybe make your each building maybe like only 15 or 20 units instead of a big massive block of 200 units where people don't know who each other are and it's more of like a hive instead of a community. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I just love the different examples from you saying, I mean, I got a 3-year-old. There's no way I want to be taking her to walk a mile just to get to the car, to bring her to Target or something like that. Like,
Right.
it's not a good quality of life. And I loved how you talked about still you got to balance right between okay how does the deal pencil because building cost is really really expensive
Right.
versus the 15 to 20 units maybe that's manageable for you especially if you are trying to keep your operation a little bit smaller and you are more
Mhm.
hands on as a owner of that property then
Right.
that might work for you but just remember we just talked a lot about how do you verify income how do you stay on top of it it's like a full-time job don't
It
get it
is.
wrong
It
it's
is.
hard.
So, I would say this, dealing with some projects in Massachusetts, one of the things that we are noticing is a lot of developers are really happy and excited to redo some of these mills or redo certain other projects. But what happens is it feasible, right? So we're talking about feasibility. Are people actually moving into the area? Is it a great area to live in? And then what happens if nobody moves into your building? Like, what kind of risk are you putting in on yourself as well? What happens that you decided to move, have this great monstrosity of 100, 200 units, and no one's living in the city, right? Are you creating affordable housing for actual need, or are you creating affordable housing for financial gain? So that's like two different things. Not to say financial gain is not great, but how are you creating these affordable housing projects and where are you creating them as well? So keep that in mind too, that not a lot of people are moving into particular areas, but if they are and you're seeing an increase of people trying to rent out areas, then yes, create affordable housing. But if nobody's interested in living there, but even though you see a great opportunity, is it feasible for that particular area. And I think that's something when we think about grants and fundings and everything else, that needs to be considered as well.
Right. And you can do good by doing well. I mean, like, it's just, it goes hand in hand together. You
Right.
don't have to maximize density all the time.
Exactly.
You have to think about the quality of life. That's why I love bringing back to vacancy expenses, because a lot of people sometimes get so focused on the number and they
Mhm.
just forget about how the quality of life impacts your pro forma, your underwriting, your deal analysis.
Exactly.
Because if you don't have green space, you don't have a, let's say you want to gear towards family, but you don't have a playground nearby. Like someone has to walk a mile to drag their kids to
No.
go slide and swing on some swings. Like that's
Right.
not ideal. No
It's
one wants to
not.
live there.
It's not. And I think also, you know how some places have like a walkability score? I think if you're
Yes.
thinking about those things is my town, is my area even walkable for me to decide I don't want to have parking or I want to reduce these types of amenities? Is it even feasible for my town or for my area as well? But funding wise, I think everybody, when you're starting to look at trying to get some of these public funds and even the private funds, think about quality of life for your residents. Think about your community, what impacts it has on your community, and how are you solving the housing crisis in your community as well. Those are main things that you need to think about with your application. And those are questions that they're going to ask you as well.
All right. So I love how we just went through this like whole philosophical question and approach about building. Let's put a bow on the Millionaire Fund. How do
Okay.
people find out, or how do people actually apply for it? Is it through HUD? Like how can people get access to those funds and apply for it?
One of the ways is through the city. So some cities have the funds coming straight to them. So you can find it through the building department or through the city website as well. So just check with your city, check with your county. Not every city and county has it. So just keep that in mind. But if yours does, then ensure that you're looking at the city website and then the county's website too for the funding. Some of the funds have been separated. So meaning is it's still the same money, but these people are distributing a certain amount, and then this particular entity is distributing another amount. So keep that in mind too. So you may be able to do two applications, one for the city and one for the county.
Ah, got it, got it, got it. Because obviously in a county, it's so well like, spread out that you might have pockets of cities where there's abundant amount of wealth. So the millionaire tax creates
Right.
a disproportionate amount of revenue for the millionaire fund.
Exactly. Exactly. And then for other states outside of California, they do have something similar. They may not call it a millionaire tax, and they may not have it directly straight for affordable housing building, like construction or purchasing. However, there are some states that do have it, or they have a program that's similar that goes to housing in general and housing services, which does include the programs as well.
Got it. And is there a timeline for the millionaire tax, like to apply for that revenue? I know we talked about it earlier, but is there one for the millionaire tax funds?
Yes. So for some people, it's going to be, if I believe correctly, for one application, it's at the end of this month of October. And then for another part of that application is in January. So there is kind of like two funding, but like I said, there is a lot of different cities and different counties are having those dates. So you have to go through them. If you are gonna do the October one, go ahead and do it now. Start now. Don't wait till the week of and be like, "Oh, I think I may try it out." No, just go ahead and do it now. Look at it, see if it's something great. A lot of our clients were coming to us, we're putting firm deadlines on them that if they want to utilize those funds that we need to start up at the application process with them starting next week. So just understand that we are putting a sustainable firm deadlines on our clients, but at the same time though, if you are trying to do it on your own, start working on it as soon as possible.
All right, this is so good. Okay, so I know we talked about so many. We definitely want
Yeah.
to talk about the CDBG funds, the Community Development Block Grants. Tell
Mhm.
us what's going on with CDBG funds.
So, because of the big beautiful bill, CBDG funds were on the chopping block like home. However, Congress was really grateful. We're really grateful for Congress for keeping those funds available. So there is about $3.3 billion available for CBDG throughout the United States. Those funds are being allocated to the states, and some of them are being allocated to the municipalities. And then from there, you apply from the state or municipality that has the funds that are divvying out the funds. Certain municipalities, or you can think of it as in California, like Orange County, they're the ones who are responsible. But there's also HCD, the Housing Community Development. They have their own monies from CBDG as well that is responsible for divvying out monies. So yes, you may be eligible to receive almost not a double dip, but you may be able to receive it for one project from the county and if you have another project from the state. So just kind of keep that in mind. The municipalities are most likely the ones who are able to divvy it out. However, there is a couple of things that do happen. Sometimes if your area has something called a coordinated entry system, and the coordinated entry system did apply for the CBDG funds, and they may do a competitive grant within their system for who gets the money to receive the money for their affordable housing project. A really great example of that is in Hawaii. Their CES had it where it was they received the funds for affordable housing, a particular amount, and then they asked for all the agencies and developers to turn in their project to them, and then they gave the money to the project they all decided to utilize it for. So there is a couple ways to receive the funds. How to receive it is important to know, and that's based upon what's happening in your city or county or state.
Okay, so they can research this right now and figure out who has the funds. It could be their housing development, it could be a county department, it can be the city level. And they have to
Right.
figure out, I'm assuming there's like eligibility requirements because every state has their own priorities, I'm
Yes.
assuming. Okay.
Yes. So, for instance, in one state what we're working in, they're working on keeping homeless prevention. That's the word they're using, which means is housing that needs work. So, just say right now that you are a developer or you own a project and it right now it's considered market rate rent and it's kind of needs some help, right? You can utilize those funds to be able to help revitalize your particular building and then be able to transfer some of those units into affordability units as well. So to say you decide to utilize 30 to 50% and turn them over to affordability, that's one of the ways that some cities are utilizing for the CBDG funds.
Okay.
Mhm.
People, please do that research right now to see if your projects apply. And I'm assuming, can cities and counties use, usually CDBG funds are kind of issued to developers. Can cities use it themselves for like their own projects?
Yeah, so they could use it for their own projects if they have any, or you can do it as a joint venture. So if just say you're a developer and you want to venture with the city and county, you're more than welcome to give them a proposal for those funds. And so then that way, not only does it help them out, but it helps the community out. Now, the ones who are due, the cities and counties or municipalities have the funds and they're trying to do their own project, they may have something called an RFP. So you may need to go through their particular procurement office or wherever they post the bids and RFPs if you're a developer for you to help them out.
And RFP stands for request for proposal, right? It's very
Yes.
common
Yes.
for a city or a county to say, we have X opportunity or we have this piece of land
Mhm.
and we're looking for the innovative solutions that someone wants to propose along what we would want as a city to create more affordable housing. So
Exactly.
you
So
had to look really closely at the RFP to see what would you propose as the proposal project
mhm.
to build more affordable housing, right? Did I catch that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. And so those funds, we got word that on September 30th, which was just a couple days ago, that the new funding is about to be dispersed or has been dispersed for some areas. So if you did receive notification, if you're on the newsletter for your community housing development or in the newsletter for your city, and you're able to find out that they did receive the funds, then you're going to want to be able to go ahead and try to apply for those first. You don't want to be the last round. You want to be on the first round of funding. And the reason why is If the round 1 you don't get it, you can go round 2, round 3, round 4 until you can obtain it. So try not to wait till last minute. I think that's the main thing I can always say no matter what on these funding things is don't wait till last minute. Opportunity does come around a second time or a third time around, but you need to go ahead and apply now.
And it shows that you're dedicated, right? If you go through round one and you're still putting your name in the ringer for round two and round three, people want to say, okay, they're serious, they're committed. And
Right.
meanwhile, just like what Amber and I talked about earlier, don't sleep, don't stop working, go
Yeah,
find other
don't.
sources of capital. Don't
Exactly.
put all your eggs in one basket, the grant basket, and hope and pray that you're going to get it because hope and pray is not a strategy. Please, please,
No,
please.
it's not. So, yeah, you wanna make sure that you're continually working on the applications, but yes, money did come out available on September 30th. As of right now, most of the money for CBDG is not affected by the current shutdown when I did double check it. However, there are some monies that were allocated for affordable housing that has been affected by the government shutdown, and so please make sure that if you are currently in an affordable housing building or your unit is an affordable housing unit, that you ensure that whatever set asides or funding sources for your building is protected. And if not, then I suggest to you guys to go ahead and find other sources of funding to basically bridge the gap for what's about to be cut from the government shutdown. So just guys keep that in mind. We're looking at 170,000 people either in affordable housing right now, potentially losing their housing or at risk of losing it.
Wow, that's a pretty dire problem. And it's not something to be taken lightly, but
Mhm.
please be I mean, it's just with
Yeah,
any business, you gotta be prepared for the worst case scenario, and I think it's just a great reminder of why your reserves gotta be so important, why you gotta be conservative in your assumptions because
mhm,
it can flip really fast. All it takes is
exactly.
20-30% of your occupancy gone, and now you're well underwater, and now all of a sudden you're just wondering what just happened.
Right. And I think also keeping in mind that when you said reserves, when you're developing a housing project and looking for funding, I tell my clients, whatever they ask for reserves, double it. And so if they say it's
Mm.
$500 per unit per year to put in your reserves, double it and put that in your pro forma as doubled because you just never know what may occur. You never know when you may have some type of natural disaster, something. You just never know. So I always say to double it.
Yeah, and that'll help you sleep way better at night. Sure, you make a little bit less money, but I would give up money for peace of mind every single day, no
Right.
hesitation. Alright.
Exactly. But yeah, the funding sources that are available out now, they mostly came out this past week. There are more funding that's coming available between now and the end of the year. So if you are interested in receiving funding, go ahead and start looking at your state's housing development sites, your state's treasury sites as well, and even your city and county. They may actually have leftover funds, and those monies have to be distributed by the end of the year. So please make sure that if you are looking at funding through public funds or even private funds, now is the time, and now is not the time to waste. It is now the time to go ahead and pick them up because we're unsure of what's going to happen the next year with everything and all the changes. We notice a lot of changes in funding, how most people are now going towards private funds with banks, philanthropies, and foundations, and moving away from the public funds because it's not necessarily always guaranteed. So, if you are trying to get funding for your project and to reduce the cost of your project as well, it's now is the time. And this next 3 months, this last quarter, is probably the most important quarter for everybody.
Ooh, alright. Get on it, everybody. And I mean, I just think of the fact that if you ever thought for a second that this game doesn't belong to you or you think you can never become developed, I bet somewhere in your circle right now, everybody, whether you work in a city or your county or you are a realtor or you just know some people with land, think about it. You could start turning or getting alternative sources of funding, getting capital, either acquiring land nearby or getting your project entitled so that you can get more density. You
Mhm.
can make an impact in affordable housing right now with your existing resources today. And sometimes you just need a little bit of help. A little bit of
Right.
someone that just shines a light on something, just like what Amber did today. She took a little flashlight, she shined on a pot of gold, and she said, "Hey, look, go do some good with it." And
Right.
this is why we're doing this podcast. So, Amber, for people that don't know who you are and never got in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you?
I would honestly say the best way to get in touch with me is to either email us. So our email is sustainedlivingnow@gmail. That's the best way for general inquiries. And another great way of reaching out to us is through LinkedIn. So you can look through us through my name or sustainable, and you'd be able to see us. We are a little greenhouse with a leaf around it.
All right, make sure you guys blow up her DMs on LinkedIn, Anber Little, N as in
Yes.
Nancy,
And
Ber
yes.
Little on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And I think you all cannot sleep on this. We just talked about how much urgency you need to put onto this for the last quarter in 2025. Please don't sleep on it. Amber, again, I appreciate you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah,
Without people
absolutely.
like you, I would have never had the home I grew up in. So I appreciate you so much. We have people listening from all across the country that are inspired by the knowledge that you're dropping. You are shining a light on truly something that they have never known about. So I'm so grateful for you. Thank you, Amber.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for, having me here. I mean, I wanna be able to tell people that there's money available for them.
All right. So, guys, if you found this information useful, please subscribe to our podcast and leave a 5-star review. In this world where ChatGPT is taking over the world, you're not going to get little nuggets and wisdoms like we covered here on ChatGPT. So, leave a 5-star review for us on Apple or Spotify. Start off the review with something like, "Hey, best podcast on affordable housing." Like that would help us so much, seriously. And we can share this information with more people and create more housing and keep building together. So thank you. Amber, thank you so much. I can't wait to have you back on for the 4P.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. And we are out.